Hi guys, and welcome to My Real Life, Episode 5, Buddy1927 in Real Life Buddy Walter. In the last episode I talked to you about my mother and how my mother was a little agitated that I was on an ambulance and actually delivered a baby and all that. Well, I got another story for you. I was 19 at the time, and I was working. I had a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs at the time, and I was working at one of my part-time jobs, which was an Amoco station. It was on US 40, right there on the Golden Mile, and we were. I was just getting off work. I worked 6 to 2 that day, and the owner of the gas station, who was also on independent hose company, we were on the same fire department. Him and I were talking, and all of a sudden we heard this big explosion. I mean, it shook the building. That's how bad the explosion was. And about 2 minutes later, our pagers go off, telling us there's been an explosion and fire at a construction site. And as a matter of fact, that construction site was only a quarter of a mile away. We arrived on scene, and Andy and I arrived on scene. He went in and got his gear on and was analyzing the fire. I was a firefighter EMT, so we actually had 2 severe burn patients. As a matter of fact, they called in son that were severely burned, and I started treating them until the ambulance came on. What happened was there's this thing called a caterpillar, and it was a cold day, and what this thing is, it's run by propane, and this caterpillar heats up the room, so people can drywall, and drywall compound was set and all that. And there was a propane leak, and evidently this father and son, which was a carpenter team, actually came in, and so one of them lit a cigarette, and boom, they had a big explosion because of the leak. Because the caterpillar actually stopped working, and it was leaking propane, and when he lit the cigarette, it ignited the propane and caused this big explosion. So I was treating them. As soon as the ambulance arrived on scene, our assistant chief was already on scene, taking command, and I went up to him and I asked him what he wanted me to do, and he advised me there were several propane tanks in the building. We need to get as many of them out of the building. So I went ahead, masked up, and I started getting them out. I got all of them out that I could find, and then he told me to go ahead and take a second line up to the 3rd floor. And I said, okay. So I was hauling up this line, and I was on the 2nd landing going up to the 3rd landing on the stairwell, and halfway between the 2nd landing and 3rd landing, the roof caved in on me, and I actually had a I-beam that actually fell on top of me. And but luckily I was in a corner, so I got jammed in the corner. I felt that, but it knocked me out. I mean, knocked my helmet out, knocked me out. And back then, we didn't have full tourniquet like the firefighters do nowadays. Back then, I actually had 3/4 length boots that came. You can't see, the camera's not low enough. That came up about 3/4 of the length of my legs, and a piece of amber got down in between there and started burning me, and that kind of woke me up. And I knew I was trapped, and I tried to wiggle myself out of there, and I finally did. And another firefighter from a different company started pushing me towards the 2nd landing window. Well, he got me to the 2nd landing window. My mask has been knocked off. I'm coughing up smoke, and I'm at the window getting some fresh air. And I see Tommy, the assistant chief, down there. I say, hey, Tommy, we have a roof collapse. I don't know if anybody else is injured. And all he was saying was, don't jump, buddy, don't jump. I'm like, I'm not jumping. Don't jump, buddy, don't jump. I'm not jumping. Then I realized what was going on. The guy from the other company was actually trying to push me out the window. And it was about a 20-foot drop. I'm like, I ain't coming down there. Well, another firefighter grabbed a 10-foot roof ladder, and he puts it up against the building and starts going up. I'm like, oh, I'm going down the stairs. So I finally got the firefighter who was trying to push me out off of me, and I went ahead and walked down the stairs, walked outside. And I told Tommy what was going on. He kept on looking at me like I was strange. He said, how do you feel? Well, I took some smoke and it knocked me out, but I'm feeling okay. He said, do you know what your air pack looks like? No. Well, back then we didn't have fiberglass or composite bottles. We actually had steel bottles, and it actually split in half from where the I-beam hit, and I did not realize it. And he said, okay, let's get the air pack off of you, and we'll go ahead and get you to the hospital, get yourself checked out. So I went ahead and started taking off the air pack, and when I took the harness off, all of a sudden my right shoulder started hurting. So I went ahead. EMS was there, the 3rd ambulance was there, and they put me on a backboard, put a collar on me, and I went to the ER. Well, the EMT that was working was also an RN in the ER, and her and I actually took EMT class together, and we nicknamed her Frog, because I mean, she had frogs on her stethoscope, she had frogs on her lab nursing coat. I mean, so we just nicknamed her Frog. And Frog said, is your mom working today? I said, yeah, I think she is. Oh man, you gonna be in trouble? Oh, I know I am. So I get wheeled into the ER on the stretcher, and all of a sudden I see my mom coming towards me. I went, oh, that's it. Frog said, don't worry. I said, hi mom, and she just walks right on by me. Well, Frog goes in and puts me in a room, and gives his report to the nurse. The nurse comes in. I said, buddy, what are you doing here? Well, I'm the injured firefighter. And as you can see, these are idiots behind me on a 4-wheeler with no helmet. Good job. Good way to die. But I'm the injured firefighter. He said, does your mom know? I went by fire and said, hi mom. And she just walked on by. I don't think your mom knows you're here. So he said, I'm going to go get the doctor and then go find your mom and let her know what's going on. I said, okay. So the doctor comes in, and doctor's examining me. All of a sudden, the curtain comes flying open, and it's my mom. And she has this look of death. Like she's going to kill anybody who gets in her way. And she says, what the hell are you doing in my ER? Doctor looks at her, looks at me, looks at her again, looks at me. I said, that's my mother. Looks at her, said, I'm sorry, you're dead. I said, Mom, I got injured at a fire call. What do you mean you got fired? And she just starts going off. And the doctor said, Barbara, settle down, he's fine. He has a little smoke inhalation. We're going to take a picture of his shoulder and his head, and we're going to find out what's going on. So they wheel me off to x-ray. Doctor examined me, said I had a concussion, I had smoke inhalation, and I bruised my collarbone. Okay, so I get home, everything was fine. Mother was still upset that I got injured at a fire, and she really didn't want me going on fire calls anymore for a while. I'm like, well, I'm tied up for at least, I had to wear a sling for at least a month. So I went ahead, said fine. So that was the end of that. About 25 years later, I was here in Wayne County. I was directing traffic, and I got hit by a car. And the paramedic who picked me up was a buddy of mine. And as a matter of fact, he ended up being my partner when I worked for Wayne County EMS. And he at this time he was working for Goldsboro Rescue as a paramedic, and I was EMT and immediate for Goldsboro Rescue. And he wanted to give me morphine. I'm like, no, I want to stay conscious. Yeah, I know it's hurting like hell. He said, sure you don't want morphine? Yeah, I'm sure. I want to know what's going on. And he said, okay. And I go ahead. They take me to the ER, and the doc Doctor examines me. He said, yeah, we'll get some pictures of your shoulder. He went ahead and got pictures of my shoulder. He comes back with the x-rays. He said, have you ever injured that shoulder before? I said, well, no. Well, yeah, back when I was 19, I had a roof collapse on me and an I-beam fall on top of me and bruised my collarbone. He said, no, you didn't bruise your collarbone, you broke your collarbone. And he showed me the calcium buildups and all that. He said, you actually had a fracture. And he said, how many pictures did they take? They said, they took one, said it was just bruised. They didn't take one 2 days later? I said, nah. They just put me in a sling for a month, and that was it. Well, he said, you actually, if they would have took an x-ray 2 days later, you would have found out that it was broken. But I said, is it broken now? He said, no. This time you actually bruised it. But we're going to take pictures in 2 days to confirm that there's no fractures or anything like that. So I said, okay, good. Keep you overnight, check you, make sure you don't have a concussion, and you can leave in the morning if everything's fine. I said, okay, that's fine. So I broke my collarbone when I was 19 and didn't realize until 25 years later. You never can tell what happens to you. And sometimes the doctor's good and know what's going on, and sometimes the doctors are bad. Because I was 19 and my bones hadn't fully developed, the doctor said I had what they call a green stick fracture, which means when I actually broke it, but when they took the pictures, the fracture didn't show because it went back into place, and it would have shown 2 days later after the swelling and all that went down. They would have seen that, yes, the bone was fractured. So yeah, I've had a long career. You know, I've had some injuries due to firefighting. My air pack is my air pack, my helmet actually saved my life, or actually kept me from breaking my back. The air pack took the majority of the weight and distributed throughout me. So God was watching out over me. God was actually watching out over me when I was hit by the car, because at that time I was by myself and I didn't have a radio on me. I had to get back to the unit and call for help. So, but I should have been dead either way by being hit by the car. That actually the car took off and they never did catch the guy. And I should have been killed or severely injured when that girder, that I-beam fell and hit me. But I believe God watched out over me. He's given me over 30 years of helping people in EMS and as a volunteer firefighter. And I'm hoping maybe some of these videos might help other people to see what's going on. So, without God, I wouldn't be here right now. So I know God saved my life. So, and I also found out one thing when I was 19. Never go into the ER when your mother's working. Call ahead. Let her know you're on your way to the ER. Don't be there, and don't surprise her. I love my mom. She was angry. She was more upset than angry at the situation. But I still love my mom. She's a good woman, and she cares very much. Not just for me, my sister, and my sister's children. She has I have one niece and 2 nephews, and she cares very much for them too. So, well, in the next episode, I might have another story or another situation at college, or let's talk about something totally different. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me to answer, please leave your comments down below on the YouTube page, and I will answer them, and I might answer them in the video. So I'd like to thank you for watching this. If you like it, please like us on YouTube. I'd like to get 50 hits, if possible, 50 likes. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to my channel. That way you know when the latest video I do comes up and is available. So I'd like to thank you again for watching, and have a good day.